everybody, my name is Patricia, and today we're doing chapter 5 of How It Works. I'm sorry that I have not done this for a while, because I was in the process of moving, and, I had a lot of stuff to do before I could record. So tonight I am recording, and tomorrow night I'll be recording. So tomorrow we're gonna do 2 books. Tomorrow, the NA book and the AA book. But tonight we're gonna do the AA book. Okay, on chapter 5 of How It Works. We already read chapter 4, 3, 2, 1 chapters. So I'm gonna do what we left off, and this is chapter 5, How It Works. Rarely we seen a person fail who has truly followed our path. Those who do not recover are people who cannot or will not completely give themselves to the simple program. Usually men and women who are conditionally incapable of being honest with themselves. There are such unfortunates. They are not at fault. They seem to have been born that way. They are naturally capable of grasping developing a manner of living which demands rigorous honesty. The chances are less than average. There are those too who suffer from grave emotional and mental disorders, but many of them do recover if they have the capacity to be honest. Our stories disclose in a general way what we used to be like, what happened, and what we are like now. If you have decided you want what we have and are willing to go to any length to get it, then you are ready to take certain steps. As some of these we balked. We thought we could find an easier, softer way, but we could not. With all the earnestness at our command, we beg of you to be fearless and through from the very start. I didn't mean to say through, I said through. Please forgive me, I have a speech impairment. From the very start, from some of us have tried to hold on to our old ideas, and the result was nil until we let go absolutely. Remember that we deal with alcohol, cutting back the powerful. Without help, it is too much for us. But there is one who has all power. That one is God. May you find him now. Half measures availed us nothing. We stood at the turning point. We asked his protection and care with complete abandon. Here are the steps we took, which we suggested as a program of recovery. 1. We admitted we were powerless over alcohol, that our lives had become unmanageable. 2. Came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. 3. Made a decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care of God as we understood Him. 4. Made a searching and fearless moral inventory of ourselves. 5. Admitted to God, to ourselves, and to another human being that nature of our wrongs. 6. We will entirely ready to have God remove all these defects of character. 7. Humbly ask Him to remove your shortcomings. 8. Made a list of all persons we have harmed and become willing to make amends to them all. 9. Made a direct amends to such people wherever possible, except when to do so would injure them or others. 10. Continue to take personal inventory, and when we were wrong, promptly admit it. 11. Saw through prayer and meditation to improve our cautious contact with God as we understood Him, praying only for knowledge of His will for us and the power to carry that out. 12. Having a spiritual awakening as a result of these steps, we tried to carry this message to alcoholics and to practice these principles in all our affairs. Many of us exclaimed, "What in order? I can't go through with it." Don't be discouraged. No one among us have been able to maintain anything like perfect and adherence to these principles. We are not saints. The point is that we are willing to grow along spiritual lines. The spiritual lines we have set down are guides to progress. We proclaim spiritual progress rather than spiritual profession. Our description of the alcoholic, the chapter of the agnostics, in our personal adventures before and after make clear 3 prominent ideas. A. That we were alcoholic and could not manage our own lives. B. That probably no human power could have relieved our alcoholism. C. That God could and would if he was sought. Being convinced we were at step 3, which that we decided to turn our will and our life over to God as we understood Him. Just what do we mean by that? And just what do we do? The first requirement is that we be convinced that any life run on self-will can hardly be a success on that basis. We are almost always in conclusion with something or somebody, even though our motives are good. Most people try to live by self-propulsion, each person is like an actor who wants to run the whole show, is forever trying to arrange the light, the ballot, the scenery, and the rest of the players in his own way. If his arrangement would only stay put, if only people would do as he wished, the show would be great. Everybody, including himself, would be pleased. Life would be wonderful. In trying to make these arrangements, our actor may sometimes be quite victorious. He may be considerate, patient, generous, even modest, and self-sacrificing. On the other hand, he may be mean, egotistical, selfish, and dishonest. But as with most humans, he is more likely to have varied traits. What usually happens, the show doesn't come off very well. He begins to think life doesn't treat him right. He decides to exert himself more. He becomes, on the next occasion, still more demanding or or gracious or gracious as the case may be. Still, the play does not suit him, admitting he may be somewhat at fault. He is sure that other people are more to blame. He becomes angry, indignant, and self-pitying. What is his basic trouble? Is he not really a self-seeker, even when trying to be kind? Is he not a victim of the delusion that he can wrest satisfaction and happiness out of this world? If he only manages well, is it not evident to all the rest of the players that these are the things he wants, and do not his actions make each of them wish to retaliate, snatching all they can get out of the show? If he not even in his best moments a producer of confusion rather than harmony, or actor of self-centered, egonetic, as people like to call it nowadays. He is like the retired businessman who lures in the Florida sunshine in the winter, complaining of the sad state of the nation. The minister who sighs over the sins of the 20th century, politicians, and reformers who are sure all would be atapa if the rest of the world would only behave. The outlaw safe cracker who thinks society was wrong him, and the alcoholic who has lost all his locked up whatever our Protestants are not most of his concern with ourselves, our resentments, and our self-pity, selfishness, and self-centeredness that we think is the root of our troubles, driven by 100 forms of fear, self-delusion, self-seeking, and self-pity. We step on the toes of our fellows, and they retaliate. Sometimes they hurt us seemingly without provocation, but we invariably find that sometimes in the past we had to make decisions based on self, which later placed as in a position to be hurt. So our troubles, we think, are basically of our own making. They arise out of ourselves, and the alcoholic is an extreme example of self-will run riot. Through he usually doesn't think so. Above everything, we alcoholics must be rid of the selflessness. We must, or it kills us. God makes that possible, and there often seems no way of entirely getting rid of self without his aid. Many of us have moral and philosophical convictions galore. But we could not live up to them, even though we would have liked to. Neither could we reduce our self-centeredness which much by wishing or trying on our own power. We had to have God's help. This is how and why. This is the how and why of it. First of all, we had to quit playing God. It didn't work. Next, we decided that thereafter, in the drama of life, God was going to be our director. He is the principal. We are his agents. He is the father, and we are his children. Most good ideas are simple, and his concepts was the keystone of the new triumphant arc through which we passed to freedom. When Cecily took such a position, all sorts of remarkable things followed. We had a new employer, being all powerful. He provided that we needed if we kept close to him and performed his work well. Established on such footing, we became less and less interested in ourselves. Our little plans and designs, more and more we became interested in seeing what we could contribute to life as we felt new power flow in, as we enjoyed peace of mind, as we discovered we could face life successfully, as we became cautious of his presence, we began to lose our feel of today, tomorrow, and hereafter. We were reborn. We were now at step 3. Many of us said to our Maker as we understood him, God, I offer myself to thee to build with me and to do with me as thou wilt. Relieve me of the bondage of self that I may do better thy will. Take away my difficulties that victory over them may bear witness to those I would help to of thy power, thy love, and thy way of life. May I do thy will always. We thought will we thought well before taking this step, making sure we was ready, that we could at last abandon ourselves orderly to him. We found it very desirable to take the spiritual step with an understanding person, just as our wife, best friend, or spiritual advisor. But it is better to meet God alone than with one who might understand the wording was, of course, quite optional, so long as we expressed the idea of voicing it without reservation. This was only a beginning. Through it, honesty and humbly had made an effect. Sometimes a very great one was felt at once. Next, we launched out on a course of vigorous action, the first step of which is a personal housekeeping, which many of us had never attempted. Through our decision as a vital, critical step, it could have little permanent effect unless at once followed by a strenuous effort to face and to be rid of the things in ourselves which had been blocking us. Our liquor was but a symptom, so we had to get down to causes and conditions. Therefore, we started upon a personal inventory. This was step 4. A business which takes no regular inventory, usually goes broke. Taking commercial inventory, it is a fact finding and a fact facing process. It is an effort to discover the truth about the stock in trade. One object is to disclose damaged or unsellable goods, to get rid of them promptly and without regret. If the owner of the business is to be successful, he cannot fool himself about values. We did exactly the same thing with our lives. We took stock honestly. First, we searched out the flaws in our makeup which caused our failure, being convinced that self-manifested in various ways was what I had defeated, that was what had defeated us. We considered its common manifestations. Resentment is the number one offender. It destroys more alcoholics than anything else. From its steam, all forms of spiritual disease, we have been not only mentally or physically ill, we have been spiritually sick. When the spiritual monolith is overcome, we straighten out mentally and physically in dealing with resentments. We set them on paper. We listed people, institutions, and principles with whom we were angry. We asked ourselves why we were angry. In most cases, if it was found in our that our self-esteem, our pocketbooks, our ambition, our personal relationships, including sex, were hurt or threatened. So we were sure we were burned up. On our grudge list, we set opposite each name our energies. Was it our self-esteem, our security, or our ambitions or personal which have been interfered with? We usually define definite as this example. I'm resentful at Mr. Brown, the cause, his attention to my wife, told my wife of my mistress. Brown may get my job at the office, affects my sex relations, self-esteem, feel, sex relations, self-esteem, feel, security, self-esteem, feel. Miss Jones, she's a nut. She snubbed me. She committed her husband for drinking. He is my friend. She is a gossip. Personal relationship, self-esteem, feel. My employer, unreasonable, unjust, overbearing, threatens to fire me for drinking and patterning my expense account. Self-esteem, fear, security. My wife misunderstands and nags like Brown wants power put in her name. Pride, personal, sexual relations, security, fear. We went back through our lives. Nothing counted but truthfulness and honesty. When we were finished, we considered it carefully, and the first thing apparent was that this world and its people were often quite wrong to conclude that others were wrong was as far as most of us ever got. The usual outcome was that people continued to wrong us and we stayed sure. Sometimes it was remorse and then we were sure at ourselves. But the more we fought and tried to have our own way, the worse matters got. As in war, the victor only seemed to win. Our moments of triumph was short-lived. It is plain that a life which includes the deep resentment leads only to fertility and unhappiness to the process extent that we permit these. Do we squander the hours that might have been worthwhile? But with the alcoholic whose hope is the maintenance and growth of a spiritual experience, this business of resentment is grave. We found that it is fatal, for when harboring just feelings, we shut ourselves off from the sunlight of the spirit. The sanity of alcohol returns, and we drink again. And with us, to drink is to die. If we were to live, we had to be free of anger. The grunge and the brainstorm were not for us. They may be the various luxury of normal men, but for alcoholics, these things are poison. We turned back to the list, for it held the key to the future. We were prepared to look at it from an entirely different angle. We began to see that the world and its people really dominated us in that state. The wrongdoing of others vanished the real had power to actually kill. How could we escape? We saw that the resentments must be mastered, but how? We could not wish them away any more than alcohol. This was our course. We realized that people who wronged us were perhaps spiritually sick. Though we did not like our symptoms and the way these disturbed us, they are they like ourselves we were sick too. We ask God to help us show them the same tolerance, pity, and patience that we would cheerfully grant a sick friend. When a person offended, we said to ourselves, "This is a sick man. How can I be helpful to him? God save from being angry. Thy will be done." We avoid retaliation or argument. We couldn't treat sick people that way. If we do, we destroy our chance of being helpful. We cannot be helpful to all people, but at least God will show us how to take a kindly and tolerant view of each and everyone. Referring to our list again, but putting out of our minds the wrong others had done, we would majorly looked for our own mistakes. We will have we been selfish, dishonest, self-seeking, and frightened through a situation had not been entirely our fault. We try to disregard the other person involved entirely. Where were we to blame? The inventory was ours, not the other man's. When we saw our faults, we listed them. We placed them before us in black and white. We admitted our wrongs honestly and were willing to set these matters straight. Notice that the word fear is bracketed alongside the difficulties of with Mr. Brown, Mr. Jones, their employer, and the wife. This short word somehow touches about every aspect of our lives. It was an evil and corroding thread. The fabric of our existence was shot through with it. It set in motion trains of circumstances which brought us misfortune we felt we didn't deserve, but did not we ourselves set the ball rolling. Sometimes we think fear ought to be classed with stealing, it seems to cause more trouble. We reviewed our fears brutally. We put them on paper, even though we had no resentment in connection with them. We asked ourselves why we had them. Wasn't it because self-reliance failed us? Self-reliance was good as far as it went, but it didn't go far enough. Some of us once had great self-confidence, but it didn't fully solve the fear problem or any other. When it made us cocky, it was worse. Perhaps there is a better way. We think so, for we are now on a different basis, the basis of trusting and relying upon God. We trust and venerate God rather than our infinite selves. We are in the world to play the role He assigns, just to the extent that we do as we think. He would have us rumbly rely on Him. Does He enable us to match comedy and sincerity? We never apologize for anyone for depending upon our Creator. We can laugh at those who think spiritually the way of weakness. Paradoxically, it is the way of strength. The verdict of the ages of that faith means courage. All men of faith all have courage. They trust their God, and that we never apologize for God. Instead, we let Him demonstrate through us that what we can do. We ask Him to remove our fear and direct our attention to what we would have us be. Once we commence to outgrow fear. Now about sex. Many of us needed an overhauling there. But above all, we try to be sensible on this question. It is so easy to get way off the track. Here, we find human opinions running to extremes, absurd extremes, perhaps. One set of voices cry that sex is a lust of our lower nature, a base necessity of procreation. When we have the voices to cry for sex and more sex, we bewail the institution of marriage, who think that most of the troubles of the race are traceable to sex causes. They think we do not have enough They think we do not have enough of it, or it doesn't isn't the right kind. They see its sufficiency everywhere. One school would allow a man no flavor of his fail, and the other would have us all on a straight pepper diet. We want to stay out of this controversy. We do not want to be a arbiter of anyone's sex conduct. We all have sex problems. We hardly be human if we didn't. But what can we do about them? We reviewed our own conduct over the years past, well, we have been selfish, dishonest, or considerate. Whom had we hurt? Did we unjustifiably arouse jealousy, suspicion, or bitterness? Well, where were we at fault? What should we have done instead? We got this all down on paper and looked at it. In this way, we tried to shape a sane and sound adult for our future sex life. We subjected each relation this test. Was it selfish or not? We asked God to mold our ideals to help us to live up to them. We remembered always that our sex powers were God-given and therefore good, neither to be used lightly or selfishly, nor to be despised or loathed. Whatever our ideal turns out to be, we must be willing to grow toward it. We must be willing to make amends where we have done harm, provided that we do not bring about still more harm in so doing. In other words, we treat sex as we would any other problem. In meditation, we ask God what we should do about each specific matter. The right answer will come if we want it. God alone can judge our sex situation. Counsel with persons is often desirable, but we let God be the final judge. We realize that some people are so fanatical about sex as others are loose. We avoid aesthetical drinking or vice. Suppose we fall short of the chosen ideal and stumble. Does this mean we are going to get drunk? Some people that tell us so, but this is the only a half truth, it depends on us and our motives. If we are sorry for what we have done and have the honest desire to let God take us to the better things, we believe we will be forgiven and will have learned our lesson. If we are not sorry and our conduct continues to harm others, we are quite sure to drink. We are not terrorizing the fact. These are facts out of our experience. To sum up the sex, we earnestly pray for the right ideal, for the guidance in each questionable situation, for sanity, for the strength to do the right thing. If sex is very troublesome, we throw ourselves the harder into helping others. We think of their needs and work for them. This takes us out of ourselves. It quiets the imperious urge when it yelled would mean heartache. If we have been through about our personal inventory, we have written down a lot. We have listed and analyzed our resentments. We have begun to comprehend their facility. In the facility, we have commenced to see the terrible destructiveness. We have begun to learn tolerance, patience, and good toward all men, even our enemies. We look on them as sick people. We have listed the people we have hurt by our conduct, and we are willing to straighten out the past if we can. In this book, you read again and again that faith did for us, that we could not do for ourselves. We hope you are convinced now that God can remove whatever self-will has blocked you off from Him. If you have already made a decision in an inventory of your grosser handicaps, you have made a good beginning. That being so, you have swallowed and digested some big chunks of truth about yourself. Well, that was chapter 5. I hope you guys got something out of that How It Works chapter. So, thank you, and I see y'all tomorrow.